reporting.
I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?
My dog went flying through the air over the trees. I don't know how it did it.
From baffling missing 411 cases that leave us questioning reality to the elusive and legendary creatures like Bigfoot, we are here to discuss it all.
By God, if a hand come from the other side of that fence, grab this thing by the head and neck, just one-timed it.
1 o'clock in the morning, I'm awakened by lights. Bright lights. I'm talking about, Josh, the lights were so bright, it looked like daytime, so I thought it was the morning.
There's just something going around, attacking our sheep. And my grandma used to talk about this guy, Ketso, that means, Bigfoot in our language, so.
If you have ever found yourself captivated by the unexplained or intrigued by the mysterious, you are in the right place. Welcome to Mysteries Unknown. Hey guys, welcome to another live from Mysteries Unknown. I hope everybody's doing good tonight. A lot of people in the chat. We got a good show for you. We're going to be talking about some really scary Bigfoot encounters, some Dogman encounters, and just kind of the scary side of these creatures and kind of why they are scary and some of the stuff that they do and deep dive into all that. And I know Daniel's got some good stories researched and ready to talk about, but I hope everybody's doing good. But what's up, Daniel?
What's up, brother? I'm still trying to get some stuff out to people.
Okay, cool, man. Cool.
Well,
awesome. We're excited to have everybody here tonight. If this is your first time on a live show, we do things a little bit differently on these lives. We interact with you guys in the chat quite a bit. So if you're here, it's your first time, let us know. It's good to see everybody that's normally here. Jesus is King. Always good to see you, Wade. What's up, buddy? Janet, it's good to see you. Janet, I've not forgot to respond to your email. I definitely will get back to you. I am slow about that. Ashes to Antics, good to see you. Daryl, what's up, buddy? A lot of people in the chat, a lot of familiar faces. Frida, hey, Frida. So let us know if this is your first time. Let us know where you guys are from, where you're watching from. But, one of the things that has always fascinated me about Bigfoot is just the massive size of these creatures and some of the things that they do. And there's some wild stories out there. We're going to be talking about quite a few. I've got some pulled up tonight that I'm excited to talk about with you guys. Some of the stories we're going to be covering tonight, just so you know what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about the massacre at the Land Between the Lakes, the LBL. It's a Dogman encounter. Everybody's familiar with that, but we're going to go over that. The Falk monster from my home state of Arkansas. So we're going to talk about that. I know Daniel's got quite a few cases pulled up. The Michigan Dogman stalking. We're going to talk about that. If we have time, we're going to talk about the siege of, I can never pronounce that word. Man, I'm going to butcher that. In Oklahoma. We covered it one time on the show. Hanoba. So a lot of good stuff. Hanoba. A lot of good stuff that we're going to be talking about. So, but we're just excited to hang out with you guys. And if this is your first time here, we do these lives every Thursday night at 8:30 Central. And then every single Monday, I drop an encounter on this channel, an interview with somebody where they share their first person encounter. So a lot of good stuff. But also, man, tell them about your channel real quick, man. Daniel's got a great channel. So if you love this one, you're going to love his.
Hey, everybody. Again, sorry. I'm trying to get some stuff out there to some people that I don't know if they're in any of the groups. But Cryptic Podcast. It is growing. Bro, it's growing like crazy.
That's awesome, man.
So 2 days ago, I sent you a screenshot, and it was 1,801 subscribers. And as of right now, I'm sitting at 1,956. So,
awesome.
It's Cryptic Podcast on YouTube, Spotify as well. And if you have an encounter like to be on the show, email me at the cryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Again, the cryptidpodcast72@gmail.com.
Yeah, guys, push him over that 2,000 mark tonight. That'd be a great thing to do. So,
I release every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, once a month for the members of the channel. I do an early release or early access to members for once a month. I do a Saturday show. You guys, I probably will not be on next week's live. I'm going to be on vacation starting tomorrow. I'll be in Michigan. So, but you never know. I'll try to get on there. So
you can't expect him to do this on his vacation, guys. We might have to figure out something else to do next Thursday.
That's my vacation.
That's true.
Hey, Josh. Josh said he's willing to come on my show. Yes, please. The Cryptic Podcast 72@gmail.com. I'm always looking for any type of encounters. Also, I haven't told you this. I am starting a special series for my channel, and it's called 50 States of Fear: Cryptid Sightings and Encounters Throughout the United States.
Awesome.
So I'm starting in April, and I'm looking for any encounters from Arkansas, Alaska, Alabama, and Arizona starting off.
Man, that sounds really cool, man. So guys, go check out his channel. Give him some love. If you love this channel, you're going to love his. And so I couldn't have picked a better co-host on these lives, man. He's phenomenal. Actually, this was my wife's idea. Give her a shout out. We were sitting at the house, and I wasn't doing lives, and the eclipse was coming through back. Oh, gosh, I'm long.
I remember that.
Yeah, she's like, Daniel, ask Daniel to be your co-host and come on to a live. So that's just been ongoing since then. So, but cool stuff. But, there's a lot of weird stuff all over each state. It amazes me how many states out there have a Bigfoot encounter or a Dogman encounter or some kind of cryptid. And it's kind of all over the map. And it blows my mind the fact that these creatures are all different in these areas, but there's always some kind of similarity. So you guys, you don't want to miss that. I know that Arkansas, man, we've got some wild stories, my home state, that pop up. So pretty crazy stuff. But man, I'm excited to get into this. Now, everybody knows at this point in time, I say everybody, maybe not everybody, about the LBL. And I'm gonna get into the story. We're just gonna get into it tonight. But so the LBL, for you guys who don't know, that's the land between the lakes. And Roger, who was on the show last week, lives, in the great state of Tennessee, and he's been there a handful of times. We talked about it briefly, and man, there's some wild stuff that happens there. But this is kind of the case that kind of kicked it off, man, back in the 80s. But the LBL used to be, I can't remember what they call it, the land between.
It was the land between the rivers.
Yes, that's what it was. And it's. Yeah, go ahead, man.
No, you got it. I was just reminding you.
Yeah, and so the land between the lakes, and so the government came in and basically forced everybody out of there and took over the land and flooded a lot of the property. But what makes it such a weird place is there's a lot of graveyards there, and for whatever reason, Dogman seems to be associated with these things. We might get into that tonight about the reasons why. But before I read this story, matter of fact, in the chat, let us know why you think that Dogman is always associated with graveyards or has been seen around them. But there's a lot of sadness in that area, and so that a lot of times people think that's why that there's so much activity. But I'm going to read this story. What's up, Daryl? Daryl Denton. Hang on, we pop him up here. You talking about an expert in the LBL? Daryl Denton is the expert. Him and Martin Groves, them two guys right there, they know what they're talking about. So let's see here. This is the massacre at Land Between the Lakes. So the Land Between the Lakes, starting off bad, man. The land between the lakes, spawning Kentucky and Tennessee, is a vast and eerie wilderness steeped in folklore. But among all legends, none are more horrifying or as real as the infamous LBL massacre. So back in the early 1980s, with a family of four, a father, a mother, a teenager son, and young daughter, set out to camp in a remote woods in the LBL. They were experienced campers, used to being out in the wild. As the sun set, the father built a fire while the mother prepared food. Their children played nearby. Let's see, the laughter at the glow and the flames flickered against the towering trees. That night, everything changed. Says it started with distant howls, low, guttural, and inhuman. Now, some of this stuff, guys, like this story has been. Do you know if they've actually proven this story, Daniel, or is this more folklore? Because I wasn't able to find anything.
From what I understand, and Daryl may be able to even let us know more about it as well. But from what I understand, it is confirmed.
Okay.
And the campground that this happened in is pretty much gone.
That's what I heard. But you can still see like the steps and all this stuff.
There's a few things standing in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this story, guys, this is written from, facts, but then it's also from a narrative perspective. But it started out with distant howls, long, guttural, and inhuman. The father dismissed it as wolves, but something about them felt wrong. They were deep and guttural, reverberating through the trees like a warning. Then came the sounds of heavy footsteps circling their camp just beyond the fire's glow. Then silence. The father, uneasy, grabbed his rifle and flashlight, scanning the darkness. He saw nothing but trees and shadows until the two glowing amber eyes blinked at him from behind a tree. Before he could react, the creature moved. It was impossibly fast, a blur of black fur and muscle as it lunged towards the campsite. The father barely had time to shout before a massive claw hand struck him, sending him sprawling to the ground. Nearby campers later reported hearing sounds of furniture being smashed in agonizing cries that went on for what felt like hours. Then just as suddenly as it started, everything went silent. The next morning, the Rangers discovered a scene straight out of a nightmare. To this day, campers in the LBL reporting hearing strange howls at night, seeing massive wood-like shadows moving among the trees and feeling overwhelming sense of being hunted. I don't know how much you know about that case, man, but there's a lot of information out there. It's kind of hard to find, like, you know what I mean, the stuff with it. But Daryl said the concrete foundation is still at the campsite. He's camped at that spot with Martin Groves in Barton Nunley. So
what I know about that is, did you finish reading it?
Yeah, that's just the information that I'd put together. I just kind of wanted to read what I had there and then talk more about it. So,
well, I know it by heart.
Well, let's talk about it, man.
So what happened is that this family of four were camping. They had a camper, and the dad heard something, and the son was with him outside. Well, the dog man attacked the dad, if I understand, decapitated the dad, and he just dropped right on the road. Chased the boy, the teenage son, chased him, killed him, and then went back to the camper. Now, the mom had looked out the window to see this thing chasing her son. There's a back part of this camper where the little girl and the mom were hiding. And there are actually 5. One of the kids hid underneath the camper and survived. Everything I've read, there's only been four people. The thing tore the door off. The camper went in. Mom, I guess, was killed first, and then the little girl. Some hikers or campers that were coming through the area stumbled upon the whole scene, saw the dad, saw the kid or the son, saw the camper, and they decided to call 911. Police showed up. They started doing a search, and from what I understand, 2 police officers or 2 sheriff deputies were walking, and this is not now, it's nighttime, and they're walking, and they pass under this tree, and something drops on to the one of the officers, and they shine the tree flashlight up, and the little girl was shoved up into like a crook of the tree.
Yeah, I've heard that part too. That's pretty crazy stuff, man. And that's why, guys, that's why I say what I say on every show. It's important to stay prayed up when you're out there doing this stuff, or, trying to look for these creatures. I know that Swamp Dog can tell you firsthand, he's had a couple encounters with these things, and it does bother you, man. It really, really, really bothers you, and it changes you, forever. You're never going to be the same. But, the LBL is a place, in my opinion, it's not to be messed with. And I would love to go out there, but I don't know that I'd want to go stay all night. But, I don't know. Joe, it's good to see you, man.
Hey, William, it's in the LBL, Land Between the Lakes.
Yeah. You want to go down a rabbit hole, guys, start looking up LBL encounters and the lore down there. There's so much stuff out there. And there's a really good documentary that actually has Daryl Denton in it and Martin Groves from Small Town Monsters. I can't remember the name of it, but if you're still watching, Daryl, let us know the name. But you guys ought to go check that out, that documentary. It's really good. But covers a lot of stuff. But why these things do what they do. Now, I think, you can put Dogman in a completely different category than Bigfoot. I think those things are just, I don't think there's anything good. I know that you talked about somebody that you had on the show, so they had a decent encounter with these things, but you don't hear about that very often, man.
Well, I this morning I had the honor of talking with Mr. Denton for about 25, 30 minutes. I got a message, and I'm not going to name any names. I'm going to say it's Middle Tennessee. And this lady is terrified.
Mm-hmm.
She's absolutely terrified. She's not terrified of Bigfoot encounters that she's had. What she's terrified is of the dogmen that are now appearing on her property. Not only that, she has seen on more than one occasion all that she can describe as paramilitary creeping through her woods with tack gear on, automatic weapons, it looks like. She said that she's seen up to 17, sorry, not 20, up to 17 of these creatures, different ones. She believes that the pack or the clan, whatever you want to call it, she believes it may be ran by an alpha female. And when I talked to Daryl, and he made a lot of sense, if they haven't done anything negative towards her or her family now, then they probably won't. Because they kind of have boundaries. They kind of respect the boundaries in a way. When I talked to her again, she said that she's not getting any of the negative feelings or the dreaded feeling from any of the females that she's encountered. They seem to be kind of protective of her children and of herself, but there are a few males, and it's not like these are all. She says they come like they're joining this area for whatever reason, and she said some of the males have kind of I guess you can say, overstepped their area. And look who just popped in.
Hey, what's up, buddy? It's good to see you, Wes. Military will make them go away. Paramilitary going through her is a good thing. Yeah, definitely.
But she says she walks around, her and her oldest son walk around with shotguns and sidearms, and they have fired on some of these males. But yeah, but she, Wes, the funny thing is when I talk to her, she's scared of this paramilitary people. So I really don't know. She lives off grid. Her area, I told Daryl where this is, and he says it's a very, very remote area. And they say if you're an outsider, they're not going to talk to you. And why we got Wes in the chat. Mr. Germer, I sent you an email asking if you would like to be a guest on my show, the Cryptic Podcast. So if you can squeeze in an hour of your super, super, super busy schedule, I would absolutely love to hear from you.
It's a cool community. Very cool community. And we're just honored to have people like him on here. And we're honored to have all you guys hanging out with us. This is all a safe place for everybody to come and talk about this stuff. And Wes, you're right, man. She should be scared of the paramilitary. But yeah, they're not there for her. I mean, they're there for those things. And it makes you wonder, like, how often do these things pop up on the, their radar like that, man? And got somebody from UK. That's awesome. Very cool.
You're 100% true. Oh, did you see this?
I did.
Awesome.
That's super cool.
I'll send you another one if you can't find it, Wes. It's probably from the cryptid podcast 72@gmail.com. I talked to her last night on the way to the Minnesota Wild Seattle Kraken game. I talked to her. She was like legit in tears when I was talking to her. So I told her I'd reach out, and Wes, I will definitely send on that information that, she is seeing paramilitary, then they know something's going on in that area. So yeah, I'll definitely,
it's, the side of this thing that people never think about is the people on the other side of these encounters. I know a lot of times people, they want to hear the stories, but they don't really pay attention to the lifelong effects that this stuff has on people. I know it's absolutely traumatized you. Some of your encounters, mine, it really took me years to come forward with it. And then I know even Wes, I mean, like his encounter, like if you've not heard his encounter, that's wild. It's
episode
wild.
2 on Sasquatch Chronicles.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of one of those stories that you don't think about, and you feel sorry for people like that. Like we get emails like that all the time, like people asking for help and they don't know what to do. And like, I mean, what do you do in that situation? You know what I mean? You stay prayed up for sure. And then you watch your back. Daryl, you're right, man. Military always knows about these things. It's crazy. Yeah, that's funny, man.
Hey,
that's hilarious.
Hey, Wes, tell Merkel that I also sent him an email asking if he would like to be a special guest on my show as well. And yeah, I've got crickets.
That's funny, man.
Merkel Media.
I don't know how those guys. I don't know how you do it, Wes. And I don't know how do you respond like to all these emails. Like as small as my channel is, I can't keep up. I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know how you do it. But we're very fortunate to sit in these chairs and talk about this stuff because it does affect people's lives. It's a life-changing thing, and when you have these creatures showing up on your property, military showing up on your property, who are you going to call? Like, you're not going to call anybody that's going to come out and help you. Like, who are you supposed to call? What are you supposed to do? So I don't know what you do with that stuff. But
see, now he's trying to start stuff.
Who's that?
He's trying to start stuff. Swamp Dog. That's funny, Daniel. Never called me. Swamp Dog, I have had conversations with you.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Now, Wes, listen, not to put you on the spot, but if you come on his show, you got to come on mine, man. So that's great. That is great.
You guys, do you still have that picture that I sent you? Because that's from a gentleman that sent me. Okay. So this is what he said. And I feel for this person. Like I don't try to have an emotional attachment, you guys, but I'm only human, and I look at you guys as part of my family. I could feel the terror when he wrote this email. Now, this isn't just a single email. He had been writing this email for months, and he would never send it. And then he would go back and he'd add more to it, and he would never send it because he was not sure if he wanted it to get out. Yeah. And so he sent me an email, and it's probably a 6-page email, and he attached pictures. And this is what he has taken. He took a picture.
It's pretty intense. Yeah, it's pretty intense, man. Let me find it. I think I still have it here. There it is. Okay, guys. I mean, this is like, this will shake you up once you realize these things are out there. It definitely changes your perspective on the world. So check this out, guys. Yeah, that's the one, right?
Yep, that is the one.
I mean, listen, And if I remember correctly, wasn't that looking at them towards their house? Like, weren't they in their house and this thing was looking at them?
From what I understand, and again, it's a long email, so I got to try to go back and reprocess everything. But from what I understand, he stepped out on his back deck, and there it was.
Man, that is wild. I don't know, man. Like, here's the thing for me. Bigfoot, I've said it many times. You can go back and forth, and I do all the time, man. Me and you talk all the time about this. You know, what is it? Is it more than flesh and blood? Or, you know, you can go back and forth, man. But dog, man, these creatures are just pure evil, man. They don't have good intentions. They're not your friend. They're not there to help you. They're just not good. And speaking of that, I had a lady that's kind of the same situation, that she emailed me really scared, had the story that happened to her, and she wanted to come on the show, but she just couldn't do it. She could not do it. And so she sent me her story and asked if I'd read it on the show, because it would, you know, hopefully bring her some closure. But I read that and I got it pulled together. I'm gonna play that real quick, guys. But this lady was just like the gentleman Daniel's describing, scared to death, didn't know what to do. And that's part of the reason why I love doing this, because there's something very therapeutic about getting this stuff off your chest. I know when you told your encounter, it helped. To an audience that listened, it makes a difference. And some of the stuff, man, it's pretty wild. But this lady, this story is pretty wild, guys. So we're gonna listen to this. And I narrated it, I read it for her, but because she went on the show, she just couldn't come on there. So, but check this out, guys, and let me know what you think.
Wishes to remain anonymous. Demon Dog from Pennsylvania. At this time, my first husband and I lived with his grandmother. I was about 20 and my husband was 23. His grandmother was in her 80s. We lived in the middle of the sticks in a 2-story farmhouse. The place had only cold running water in the kitchen, no bathroom or furnace. The house was heated by an old coal cook stove, big and cast iron. The outhouse sat behind the house several yards away. The night this happened, I had to get up to go to the bathroom. I never went outside to the outhouse. We had a chamber pot in the other room. This box is wooden with a groove to slide a rim of the bucket into, similar to the toilet chairs used in nursing homes. The room upstairs, you must go into one room to get to the other. So I got up, went to the door to open it, and as I touched the door, I heard growling. Because of my groggy state, it didn't register until I opened the door. I immediately felt evil in my bones. In the darkness, I could feel the presence of terror. I heard the growling. Slowly, the beast became illuminated from within, like fire and a stench of brimstone. For a second, I thought it was a nightmare, but no, I was awake. Slowly, the beast advanced. It was weird. The room was not very big, yet these beasts seemed to come from a distance towards me. As it got closer, I was frozen to the spot like a mouse in the sights of a cat. I began to recite scripture. Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. All at once they leapt at me, going through me. I'm still frozen to the spot. Behind me, I hear still hitting still. I hear growling and a struggle. Then, just as quick, all went quiet. I heard nothing. However, I felt an overwhelming feeling of peace and love. I felt safe. I tried to tell my husband about it, and he scoffed at me and said I was dreaming. He would tease me about it and make fun of me, so I kept quiet. I had another weird thing happen. I saw a lizard thing walking on 2 legs crossing the road. That whole thing was strange, and the next day, the minivan I had driven the night before caught on fire. A total loss. Very strange. I had told my husband again, and he didn't believe me until the next day because he was driving when the van burned up. At about the same place I saw the thing the night before. There are demons in this world just like there are angels. I believe demons are here to deceive and kill. I believe they can shapeshift. Well, that's it. Hope you have a blessed day.
Dude, that lady was absolutely it paralyzed her, man. She was absolutely terrified. And it took her forever to come forward with that story, even for me to tell it. Like, she kind of went back and forth, wanted me to tell it, then didn't want me to. So that's pretty wild, man. makes you think twice about what's out there.
Yeah, and then when you put all your sound effects in it, that just makes it
Yeah.
creepier.
Well, I mean, I had to, man. That's just the creative side of me. I could not do that. But, I know that for me, it's Daryl, you're right, man. You are right. They know the name of Jesus. I mean, and him and Martin's proven that. The stories with Martin, some of the stuff they've done is pretty wild, man. But
Martin has got cojones the size of freaking workout,
yeah.
Like for real. The walk off in the woods, he was tired of it. He just got up and said,
nope.
And he's walking out there. Yep.
We're done, man. So, I don't know. Dogman keeps popping on my radar all the time. I still get emails all the time about it. And it seems like it comes in spurts. But, for me, the weirdest one was the guy that shot one of those creatures when he was a kid, and the thing followed him around everywhere. Because I think with Dogman, man, they kind of mark you in a way. I think that they just kind of, if you have an encounter with one, they follow you for whatever reason, man. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's pretty weird, but man, let's get in one of the stories you got. I know that you got a couple of good ones. So,
well, these ones, okay. So y'all may remember that, hopefully some of you people might have, some of my family here joined in on the live show of Untold Radio Network. I was on Doug Highcheck's show. I guess I was a guest host. Because he had two other guests on there that had some incredible encounters. And what we were talking about, we were pretty much just talking about, everything that's going on around here in Minnesota. And when I say going on around here in Minnesota, I'm talking 20 minutes up the road from me.
Hey, hang on. I got a special guest real quick, guys. Yeah. I brought on a special guest. I brought in the real dog. The dog man. This is Ray, guys.
It's Ray.
I love my dog so much. So a lot of the times you'll see her running in the background, but she's my buddy. So all right. There you go. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. So I started looking around for encounters around my area that are documented. Yeah. And I had to go to a certain site to get these. And then I cross-referenced with Doug, and he's like, these are all legit. Like, he knows the people that submitted these. So this is the first one. This happened in 1972. This happened in September in Washington County, Minnesota, which is literally 10 minutes, 20 minutes, if that, up the road from me. Near Big Marine Lake. Know exactly where that is. About 2 miles west of Corey's Swamp. I know exactly where that is. This person was bow hunting and was just sitting in the stand looking around. And about 75 yards away, this hairy thing walked by. It was a long time ago, and I did not know about Bigfoot at the time. And I told my partner I had seen a swish bear because of the way it swung its arms and hands. I just sat there and watched it walk by. If I had known at the time what it was, I would have reported it. I do not know if this report will do any good, but it might help with a travel pattern for them. This place is not too far away from the St. Croix River. So it was a brief encounter. It was a brief sighting from a bow hunter. And yes, it's well documented and well known that this area near the St. Croix River, they use this as a highway. And I can do another one if you want.
Yeah, man, I'd love to hear it.
Okay. This one's a little more detailed. This took place in 2003, October, in Cass County, Minnesota. Nearest town is Benna. So this is a little more further up north for me. It was two people and their mother while they were grouse hunting around 9:30 in the morning, about 50 degrees. And the area around it was forest and lowland swamp. While my mother and I were grouse hunting up by Benna on 6 Mile Lake Road in the Mud Goose Management area, we both witnessed a Bigfoot. We were traveling down 2127 from east to west, and my mom said, "Whoa, back up." Down trail 2266 near the bend, we see a Bigfoot off the trail in the grassy ditch, and it slowly moved off the trail from west to east. My mom asked me if it felt like it moved in a super slow motion. I said yes. The ditch at the site was 3 feet down, and the grass at the edge of the trail was roughly 3 feet tall, and the upper torso was 3 to 4 feet showing above the grass, leaving the Bigfoot in approximately 8 to 10 feet tall. We drove to the spot and both noticed a strong sulfur and rotting vegetation odor. When I got out of the car and immediately felt all the hair on my body stand up. I checked for any signs of footprints on the road. I could not see any due to the gravel being already very packed down. There was a small bit of gravel that was disturbed on one spot near the west side of the road shoulder. We later stopped by the local conservation officer, aka game warden, who checks on us hunters. When we mentioned what we had seen and where it was, he remarked, "That's where people have been reporting seeing a Bigfoot." My mother and I have no doubt that we saw one. So the investigator says that they spoke at length with Jeff Stanley and separate with his mother, Susie, for about their encounter. They were both grouse hunting, driving slowly along 6 Mile Lake Road near Mud Goose Trail. They might have not spotted the figure down on the side of the road if they had not been driving slowly and looking around for grouse. Susie, the mother, spotted it first and shouted, "What in the heck was that?" Jeff hit his brakes and then backed up. The giant back of what looked like a massive body. When they backed up, Jeff shouted, "It's moving." When they saw the figure turn to a side profile showing its head to the waist of what appeared to be a giant black creature walking into the timber on 2 feet. Jeff yelled for his mom to get the camera out in case they saw it again. They described the hulking beast like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson figure with a round head sitting low on his shoulders. It appeared to be looking down. His head was almost swallowed up by its huge shoulders. From their view and their angle, it was solid. It had solid dark hair with a uniform pattern over its body. The arms were long and slowly swung as it walked into the woods. Based on the depth of the ditch and the height of the grass, it walked through what they estimated to be around 8 feet tall. Although it walked upright, she described it as more ape-like than human. After it disappeared into the woods, they drove back to the spot where they'd seen it. They had a moment to unpack what had happened before they got out and walked towards where the figure was standing. They noticed a pungent smell, which described as rotting compost mixed with musty rags. They saw small mounds of dirt pushed up on the ground, similar to what the toes would create. Jeff brought up that their dad that they should take some pictures of what they were seeing. His dad said he wasn't comfortable sticking around any longer, so he returned to the car. Later that day, they ran into the game warden while he was checking their birds. Jeff blurted out what they had seen. The game warden responded, "That's where people report seeing those things." This caught the family off guard, as if they were expecting him to refute what they had seen. Jeff and Susie are both very certain that the huge figure with long arms was definitely not a bear.
No.
This is a daytime sighting. This is like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Man, that's what's weird to me is you would think that all the sightings would happen at night, different stuff like that. But man, they pop up all over the place. Like different times. It's so weird, but had a lot of questions, a lot of good questions while you're reading that. But
Sure.
let's see here. And also, Daryl, thanks for the kind comment, man. That means a lot coming from you. We love and appreciate you and everything you've done for this community, man. So thank you for that comment. That's awesome. Let's see here if I can find it. I can't remember who asked it, but basically they were wanting everybody's opinion on what they think these things are. Flesh and blood, Nephilim, spiritual, what they are. But I will tell you guys, my opinions on these things change all the time. Like I look at everything through a biblical lens, that doesn't change. But I think maybe sometimes now, like some of these creatures you run into they're just that. But then there's also a portion of these things that are more than that. They're flesh and blood. When they're flesh and blood, they're flesh and blood. When they're not, they're not. There's too much weird or strangeness that goes on for there not to be. Dude, look who's here, man. You got to say it.
Pork chops and applesauce.
It's good to see you, man. It's good to see you. But I mean, I think that they can be a little bit of both. I think that you might run into a creature that's just that, maybe just a creature. And then sometimes, man, these things are more than that. I don't know, man. I don't think that we'll ever know. I think there's a lot of things that we don't understand. I think they're definitely connected to the Nephilim, some of them, and maybe some of them not. I don't know, man. But I know you're straight flesh and blood all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really interesting. But guys, listen, if this is your first time on the live, first time on the show, every single Monday I drop an episode. And then every Thursday we do these live shows and get on here and chat with you guys. And we're building a really cool community. This is a really safe place to share an encounter. So if you're sitting on an encounter and you've not shared it, you can share it with me or you can share it with Daniel. My email is mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. And so plug your email, man. What's your email? Oh, you all right there, buddy?
I took a drink of my diet soda here, and I just got a huge air pocket. I feel like I was gonna be rude.
That sucks.
Sorry, guys. So my email is thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. And again, you guys, I want to say thank you so much for if you're new in the channel. New in the chat, or you've been here for a while. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. The Cryptid Podcast on YouTube. I am now 43 subs away from 2,000.
Got to go get him over that. You got to get him over that. So go show him some love. But let's see here. Let's read this comment from Daryl Denton. These creatures are very intelligent, very special powers and abilities to read you like a book. Be careful what your thoughts are around them. They can feed off your fears. That's true. I mean, there's so many of these things that do that. I don't know. It's pretty wild, man. I don't know what you do with some of these. If you guys have not heard my latest episode, the one that dropped on Monday, dude, the guy's name is Daryl as well. And he's has a property out there called Owl Moon Labs. And you talking about a wild encounter with a lot of strange, weird stuff, man. That thing has everything from orbs, government, people showing up on the property. He's got photo evidence, audio evidence, you name it, DNA stuff he's working on. Like, it's pretty crazy. I'm gonna have him come on because he's also got some stories about portals. We didn't even get a chance to get into that. So yeah, Ashes, it was pretty wild. It was a really wild one. So if you've not heard that one, go back and listen to it. It's really, really good. So it's based out of Oregon.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, ask away.
What do you think? And this question goes to our tribe here. What do you think about Sasquatch communicating with us, but not through mind speak and not through verbal communication, sign language?
Man, I know they're highly intelligent, and here's the first thing that pops in my head is there was a story I heard. I don't remember. It might have been on Sasquatch Chronicles. I think it probably was. There's a lady who was out hunting with her daughter, and she had a gun. Obviously, she had her daughter in the tree. They were out, and I think it maybe was Kentucky. I can't remember where it was at, but so they were out there, and she sees a female Bigfoot walking up And right before it got to her tree stand, the Bigfoot looked up and saw her. Well, it looked right at the gun. And why I think that might be a possibility is the creature stopped and put its hand out. And so it had enough mental ability to say, hey, stop, because it knew what the gun was, and it's told her to stop. And so the lady didn't know what to do. She put her hands up, right? Like she knew that she wasn't going to grab the gun, and the thing just walked off. So, man, I don't know. Anything is possible, but what do you think?
Well, the reason I ask is I have an episode up. It's called The Wordless Conversation, A Hunter's Bigfoot Tale, episode 39, and it posted March 5th, 2025. You guys, check it out. It is an absolutely amazing encounter. And then we had someone who's new in the chat. Where did he go? We have John Stevens here. And he goes, could you relate your sights on YouTube once again? I will subscribe if you do. Forgive the newbie who tunes late. Well,
yeah,
this is Josh's channel.
I definitely will.
Unknown. And what's my channel?
The Cryptid Podcast.
See?
It's an awesome channel, guys. I'm happy to talk about it. I'll kind of briefly go over it. It kind of goes in parts. When I was 14 years old, we grew up really rural, very fortunate. Was able to spend a lot of time out in the woods, and my dad made sure that we had that freedom, and we're able to do that. And so my dad is kind of a pioneer. He's my hero. He bought a piece of property and homesteaded it, built a house, and at the time, there wasn't too many people out there. We were really close to the national forest and lots of open land behind us, surrounded by the Ozarks. Beautiful place. But anyways, so the house, the land kind of went down in a slope, and my dad had built this house with a sliding glass door towards the back of the house, and then a deck, and then, just the porch. And about 20 yards, 30 yards past that was the woods. And then when you get past the woods, there was an open field and then train tracks. And it just went on and on and on forever. Wasn't very many houses out there growing up. And so one night, I was 14 years old. I don't remember. It had to be wintertime because it got dark early. So it had to be, sometime in the winter. I think it was like 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night. I can't remember exactly when, but it was dark. And there was no other lights out there. It was just, everything was lit up by the moon. And so I come from this side of my house, and I walk towards the glass doors there. And as I walk in and I'm getting closer to the door, I just felt like something was watching me, and it just made me really uneasy. And so I went and stopped, and I looked back there, and there's this creature that comes out of the tree line. And it was every bit of, it was massive. 14 years old, everything looks big, but this thing was absolutely huge, broad shoulders, really tall. And you could see, it towered over the deck. And so the deck was 6 foot off the ground. I'm guessing this thing was 8 foot tall. Couldn't really see any details because it was backlit by the moon. So I really couldn't see other than the silhouette. And I knew it wasn't a man. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I just knew it was every bit of, the thing was probably 600 pounds. It was huge, massive. So sitting there, don't know what to do. There's no cell phones. So I didn't have a clue how to get a hold of my mom and dad. And so a thought popped in my head to grab my dad's gun. And so we had a 410 shotgun. I went upstairs, got my dad's shotgun. I come downstairs, and I put, it was a single barrel shotgun. I put a slug in it. And when I did that, this thing turned around, and guys, it was like this. It just turned. It didn't care. It didn't care at all what I was doing. But I knew that it was not happy that I was there. It was not a very welcoming feeling. It felt bad. It really was not a good feeling. And I don't mean just your obvious scared, terrified because there's this huge thing out there. I felt this thing hated me. It's what I felt like. So it turned, and then it just kind of glided. There was no up and down to it. It just glided back into the tree line, and it was gone. And it happened probably in a total of maybe 5 minutes, but I didn't tell anybody for a really long time. And so it wasn't until years later that I started to remember some of the stuff I had buried it. There's more to the story. Like I've got a couple of encounters that are kind of tied to that. What's weird about my encounter is it all happened within a 5-mile radius. And so I had 2 more sightings all within this 5-mile radius. And then my dad, when I was 5 years old, my dad is as straight laced as you can get. And he's an amazing man. But if he tells you something, you can take it to the bank. He's that kind of guy. But he had a really weird UFO encounter that happened within that 5-mile circumference when I was a kid. And so in the span of 30 years, 35 years, there's been a lot of strangeness that's happened there. Well, longer than that. So I was 5. So the span of 50 years, there's been a lot of weird things happen there in that area. And so one of these days, I'd love to do a documentary on it, and hopefully I can make that happen. So yeah, Crystal, my dad's story is amazing. If you've not heard his story, it's on my channel, but that's kind of my relationship with those creatures. Pretty wild.
Yeah. Especially when the Duke's a hazard over your car.
Oh man. Yeah. So what really triggered all this for me, and I brought all of this back, is I was on a date with my wife, and we were coming home like on a Friday or Saturday, and it had been raining, and we were going about 55 in a small car, and come up this hill just like this. It was a really steep incline, so I come up the hill, and this thing, like, I'm telling you, it was so weird. I look over to the peripheral vision. There's something catches me, and it's huge and it's white, and I'm moving, but it's on the side of the road, and I'm just, moving. So I couldn't really catch exactly what it was, but this thing just jumped over the hood of my car like it was nothing. And all I could see was shaggy, white, dirty, dark hair. That's it. That was it. And this thing took one step off the ledge and was gone. I mean, it was just gone. Wasn't a dog, wasn't a cow. We don't have polar bear, so it's like, what was that? So, yeah, it's pretty wild. A lot of strangeness has happened in that area. And, hopefully one of these days I can sit down and do a documentary on it. I still have access to all that area. A lot of my family owns that land. And so, I need to get down there and do that. But you guys, really, honestly, man, if you want to hear an incredible story, go check out my dad's story. Let me see if it'll let me link it in the comments. I don't know that it will, but I will try to link it in the description. My dad is definitely one of the best people I know, and it's worth listening to. He's a great guy, and just glad to have him as a father. But yeah, so man, that's mine, man. Why don't you tell them about yours? His is pretty wild.
I haven't had any.
Oh, come on now. That's not true.
No. So, okay. Here, this is a better. What is the scariest story that we've ever heard?
I can tell you what it is for me, but I'll let you answer that.
No, go ahead.
I know. No, you go first, man.
Oh, dude, there's a lot.
You know which one I'm going to talk about. It's the one that you used to turn your light off with when we talk about it.
Oh, yeah. We're not allowed to play that anymore.
No.
Respectfully, we don't play that anymore.
Respectfully, we don't. We were asked not to. But the story, it's just basically this guy gets chased by Dogman down the road in his car. The thing tries to get in his car, and it is such a, I don't know. I've heard a lot. You've heard a lot. For me, that one takes the cake. But
it's so descriptive, Gwen. It's so descriptive that he says that as it's running, because he had his window down in his truck, he had his window down, and he said that you could hear the nails on its feet scraping along the road as it's running. So you know how like a dog sounds when it runs across like a hardwood floor? You can hear the nails. You could hear the nails on the road as it was running, not behind his car, next to his car. It was so fast that it reached into his car and tried to grab him.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. What gets me about that story is you could hear the fear in his voice, like literally hear it. And it's just, I don't know, man. That one for me, that one for me takes the cake. I think that's probably the scariest one I've heard. But yeah, it's pretty wild. Hey guys, just so you know, I'll give you a little clip of my dad's, just so you can see. You guys got to go watch it. It's really good. Let me go find it here. I won't play the whole thing, but I'll play just a second. My dad's an author, and he's got one of these voices that just, you could sit and listen to it all day. But I'll play just like a few little bit of it, and you guys go check it out. I'll drop a link in the description. Why don't you tell us kind of what happened and take us back to the early 80s?
Yeah, the early 80s. It was not dark yet. It was just still dusk dark, and you could see good. But I was driving, and we come across Piney Bay, the bridge there. And I don't know why I did what I did, but I just happened to look off to my left, and over the Arkansas River, I saw a disc in the sky, and it was up quite a ways.
How big was it?
Well, I couldn't tell at that time.
Okay.
I don't know, I suppose it looked from that distance, which was a long ways across that fields and stuff. I don't know, all I can remember, it looked like it might have been as big as a car at that distance. And
you guys got to check it out. It's really good. I'm proud of that one because my daughter filmed that angle of my dad, and I got to sit down with him and have coffee and just do that. So yeah, he's got a voice for storytelling, man. He's a great guy. But anyways, so man, you got to tell them one of your encounters, man. You got to talk about one of them.
All right. So this one, I want to say was like 1986, 1987. And I used to be an avid bike rider. Like, again, you guys, I didn't weigh 100 pounds until I got into like 10th grade. So as I'm practicing, because I was riding a 250-mile like road, not a race, but I was raising money for the American Diabetes Association. And as I was riding through this area, I heard this really weird noise. It kind of sounded like it kind of looks like a sound like a bike ringing, like tring 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 tring. And as I'm riding, it's getting closer and closer and closer. I'm like, what the heck is that? So I look behind me, and I'll be darned if this Sasquatch is not chasing me on a unicycle. I'm just kidding, you guys.
Get out of here, man. I was sitting here thinking, I was like, I've heard all your encounters. That's not one of them.
So one that people find kind of, again, I'll tell one of my earlier ones, like when I was like 9 years old. At the time, I didn't associate it as a Sasquatch. Like I just didn't, because at that time, this was before I saw the Patterson-Gimlin film. So I was kind of like clueless. It's just what a Bigfoot was. So we went to this place called the Hunting Camp, and it was my dad, my brother, my uncle, two of his neighbors, and both of their sons, and then a friend of my uncle's. And it was way up past Aberdeen, Washington. I remember we had to drive up this logging road. It seems like we drove for like hours. We drove up this logging road, found a place where you could park, unloaded all the stuff. We hiked in about an hour or so, and you could tell that this had been used many, many times before. The reason I say is because I was at this hunting camp when I was like 7, so like 2 years earlier. So it was really, really super cool place. I mean, had a nice stream going by it, like a rocky, sandy beach. And, everything was set up. The first night we were fishing, playing around in the water, shooting 22s, and way off in the distance, we hear this super long, drawn out, like yell, right? Again, nothing. Didn't think anything of it. I kind of looked at my dad, and Dad, what was that? He goes, oh, I think it was a bear. So we go to bed the next night, or the next day. We get up, and we do the same thing. We start messing around, shooting guns again. This is where I shot my first 44, a Ruger Super Blackhawk. I was 9, and I remember when I shot it, the kickback, the recoil was so bad that I actually lost control of the firearm. And when I went like this, it went back up over my head. I let it go. It took like 25 minutes to find it, like for real. So, that big hand cannon goes off. Hey, Mr. Duffy is my uncle and my dad, both Vietnam vets. And I had great childhood, I'll tell you that. So I shoot that, and that was the only time I shot it. And so we start going around, and both my dad and my uncle were Vietnam vets, so they wanted to kind of immerse us into the area around us. They wanted us to know where we were at, what was around us, what we could eat, what we shouldn't eat, what we could use for shelter, what we can use to start fires, things like that. And when we start coming back towards the camp, we hear this loud yell again. This not a scream, but like a yell, like a holler or something. But it was closer than it was the night before. It was almost identical to the one night before. So I look at my dad again, and my dad goes, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a bear." So we go back into camp, and it's not quite dark yet. It's not quite dusk yet. So all the kids are goofing off around the camp. The adults are getting all the dinner ready. We'd caught fish earlier in the day, and we eat, clean up the camp. Everything's put away, and we go down and get into our tent. Now, we all slept in the same tent. It was like one of those military tents. They could sleep like 12, 16 people in it. And I was sleeping, if you're looking at the tent head on, I'm sleeping on the right-hand side, and I'm about middle into the tent. I'm here. My dad's next to me. My little brother's next to him, my uncle, and then everybody, the other people are on the other side. Well, I wake up and I hear something like walking around the campsite. And I kind of wake up and I look at my dad. My dad's looking at me, and we hear it a couple times, and then it just goes away. So the third day, we get up and we go around, and I see some weird prints. I'm thinking they're bear prints, right? Again, I'm 9 years old, and don't think anything of it. Go fish and do it, and doing some more pew-pews and played hide and seek and things like that. Dinner comes around. We eat dinner, clean everything up. We go to bed. And this time we hear more footsteps coming into camp, like a lot more than what was the night before. And I look at my dad, and my dad is now sitting up, and he's got his rifle across his lap. I start looking around. I could barely see my uncle and his friend. They're sitting in the middle of the tent, and then the other two dads are awake as well. All the adults are armed. I'm the only kid that's awake. Everybody else is dead to the world. And you hear it. You hear these things walking around. And again, I'm not saying I heard them talking, but I heard something. And then you hear like camp chairs, lawn chairs getting tossed around and stuff. And I'm like, what? I look at my dad, and he looks at me, and about that time, you could hear and feel something run alongside the tent. It's a canvas tent, and it like scraped its fingernails across the one side of the tent, around the back side of the tent, and then on the other side of the tent, and it ran off. I'm wide awake. I'm not going back to sleep at all. The next morning, that morning comes, my uncle, he goes out, and I hear him go, "Dean, get out here. You gotta see this." I'm already awake. I didn't go to sleep. So I jump up because I want to see what my dad's going to see, because I'm a nosy 9-year-old. And there were tracks everywhere. And these were defined large, giant human-sized prints between 16 and 19 inches long and probably 4 to 7 inches wide. They were gigantic. They were everywhere. Our food bags, because we had them tied up in a tree, the knots were untied. The bags were lowered down. Everything in those bags that were not a canned good were gone. Our pots and pans were tossed everywhere. Walking around, going down to the stream, you could see where they'd walked into the water, where they had walked out of the water. And now my dad, he's walking over to me, tell me to get back up into the camp. We're packing up, we're leaving. Now this time all the other kids are up. We'll start packing stuff up. Now we carried everything in on backpacks as much as we could. The bigger items were brought in on like deer sleds. They had these big plastic black sleds that we just put, that the adults pulled behind them. We're not putting anything up neatly. We're just piling it on these sleds that we can. We're grabbing everything we can. And then we hear this loud scream coming from my left-hand side through the woods. It felt like it was blowing the trees down. I couldn't tell you how deep into the woods it was. Maybe 50 to 100 meters, if that. We start taking off, and we're moving. And the way we're moving is my uncle's two neighbors are in front. Their kids, the two oldest kids are there, or one of the old kids are there. Then it's my brother, it's me. Then my uncle's friend was there, and then it was my dad and my uncle. They were pulling up the rear. And as we're going up, you hear things running through the woods on both sides of us. And like I said, it was an hour hike, but we're now running. My brother and the smallest one of the neighbor boys couldn't keep up, so that my uncle grabbed my brother, put him on a sled, and one of the dads pulled his son onto the sled. Now they're pulling these two kids plus everything else on these sleds, and we're running as fast as we can up through this path. Now, it wasn't like a path that you trip on. It was a pretty well-worn path. And so we're flying up this path, and we come up to where the bank of the road is, and I hear my dad go, "I've got one on the right." And my uncle goes, "I've got one on the left." Now I'm watching two men who I've watched my entire 9 years of life crack jokes, have fun, have cookouts, just have a great time. And all that was gone. It's like they were right back in Vietnam and they were about to get ambushed. They brought their rifles up. We start running up, see the three trucks, stuff's getting thrown in backs of trucks. It doesn't matter who's driving what truck. I jump in the very first truck. As we come up, my uncle throws the sled up there. He jumps in the back. My dad runs into the middle truck, gets in the back, and you hear someone slap the side of one of the trucks and yell, "Go." Well, we start tearing off out of there, and about 10 seconds as we're going, I see this branch fly through the air, and it goes between the middle truck and the truck I was in. And then all of a sudden I hear my dad opening up. He's a 30-30. Bang, bang. And these guys my uncle's opening up with him. And the amount of firepower that they had and the amount of rounds that they were just pumping into the trees. And that was the last time that I know of my dad or anybody else using that hunting camp.
Whew, that story gets me every time you tell it, man. It's wild to me, man. Y'all are fortunate. You really are. Like, that had to have a major impact on you as a kid, man. I mean, seriously, that just really had to have a major impact on you.
I mean, yes and no. Because you got to understand, my dad was like everything, man,
Yeah.
My dad is, my dad was only 5'7", but he was a giant, 2 tours in Vietnam, 101st Airborne, Tunnel Rat, EOD,
the real
bravest man I knew. I mean, and nothing shook him.
Yeah.
Nothing shook him. And to see my dad go I watched my dad go back to a dark place that he was trying to get away from.
Yeah.
And he was just, and it wasn't like he was just randomly just fired. I mean, it was precision, just boom, boom, and he was just letting him go. And same thing with my uncle. My uncle was a those patrol boats in the Mekong Delta.
Yeah.
And he was the like front gunner, twin 50 calibers. And you know, he would tell me stories about, you know, not thinking he's going to come home, you know, and then here's my uncle. Now he's back. He's back there, you know, and then there's friend Frenchie was also a Vietnam vet, and you know, and he's there. He's got this big old 6-shooter, and he's just boom, boom,
Wow.
boom. And I mean, he's like a you know, like a cowboy standing up in the back of the truck, just popping rounds off. But you know, and I think this is like one of the accounts that upsets me, you know, only because I think about how my dad,
You're good, buddy.
was willing to go back to that point.
Yeah.
Just to protect everybody else, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other one is the one with my little brother.
Yeah.
You know, so
you came from great men, and you're carrying on that heritage, dude. And that's all you can ask for as a father, to pass that along. And you know, I've been fortunate enough to know you for a long time now, and well, it feels like a long time. And those stories are very incredible, and says a lot about your personality, man, because you do the same. You go back. It's what you would do. You'd make sure everybody was out. You clear the camp and make sure everybody was safe. And so you're fortunate to have a dad like that, man. And that's a great story. And that's the point, that these things can be extremely emotional. They tie you to family. They tie you to memories that sometimes are not easy to talk about, but it does make a difference to get them off your chest. And thanks for sharing that. I know that story tears you up to share. You know, I know that's not easy to do, but I know everybody really enjoyed that, man. And you know, your dad and your family, the people with you, man, talking about some brave people, man. That's the perfect place to have perfect people to have with you with an encounter like that. So
I don't even know where that is, Wade. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Yeah, me either. Me either. So listen, I hope you guys are enjoying the live show tonight. You know, we do things differently on the live shows. You never know. We have plans, and then sometimes they go different directions, but that's what we like about the lives. We're not held to in a box. You know, we do things differently. And so just glad that you guys are here for it. And thanks for being part of this community and supporting Daniel on his channel. You know, we're trying to build something really cool together. Did you see Daryl Denton's comment, man? You gotta check that out, man.
I appreciate that, Daryl.
Yeah.
You know, I'm lucky. You know, I'm lucky because I had a grandfather that was a pillar in my life and helped me grow up to be the man that I am. I'm lucky because I had a stepdad who's also a Vietnam vet. He did 4 tours in Vietnam. And he helped mold me into the man that I am today. Then I had my dad. And when I say my dad showed no fear, legit, my dad, it doesn't matter how tall he was, how much he weighed. I've seen, I mean, I'm going to brag on my dad for a second, you guys. When I was a kid, my dad was a martial artist. I didn't know it until I was 16. And I ignored all the signs that I'd seen up until I was 16. But my dad had a really super nice car. That was his love. He loved redoing cars from the ground up, stripping the body down, stripping the engines down, doing all that type of stuff. And he just bought a really nice Olds Cutlass. Had just had it repainted. Just a beautiful car. And these knuckleheads in a Mustang wanted to race my dad. And my dad's like, I'm not going to race. I got my boys in the back. Well, one of the guy hawked a loogie on his window and then reached out and hit the front fender of my dad's car with a beer bottle. So my dad's like, okay, stoplight to stoplight. I'm going to roast you. You guys better pull over. So we beat him and he pulls over and this Mustang pulls up and these two guys jump out. And my dad's like, boys, stay in the car. So me and my brother, we're like in the back seat. So we're kind of like looking to see what's going on. And these guys are taller than my dad, easy. My dad, like I said, is 5'7". These guys were 5'11", maybe 6 feet tall. And they're talking about what they're going to do to him. We can hear it. And one of them pulls out a set of nunchucks, like of all things, a set of nunchucks. And this guy starts whipping them around. And my dad just starts like kind of starts going like this, and he's kind of moving his feet back and forth. And this guy was whipping it around, talking what he was going to do. And lightning fast, my dad just reached out, snatched him from him. And now my dad starts whipping him around like he's Bruce Lee. Like, I kid you not. And he's whipping him around. And the guy comes to like throw a punch. My dad goes, pow, and pops him right in the forehead with it. And it drops him. Well, the other dude comes at him and he has a knife.
Wow.
And so now my dad really starts moving these things around. And he hits this guy like 3 or 4 times before he realized what happened. And then he had dropped to the ground. My dad said something else. I'm not going to repeat what he said. But then he got in the car and drove off. And he took the nunchucks and he handed them back to me. He goes, hide those underneath the seat. and then we took off. But, I've seen things like that, with my dad. So,
that's great, man. Those are the kind of stories that stay with you forever, man. And it's awesome that you're getting a chance to share those. The world needs to hear that kind of stuff. So it sounded like he was a heck of a man.
He was.
I'm the same, man. I'm fortunate with my dad, man. He was my hero, man. He is my hero, but I don't know anybody bigger than my dad. So you know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean physically. I mean by just like do whatever it takes for his family. I try to do the same, but I don't know. But it's a strange world out there. There's a lot of times we talk about how bad Bigfoot is, man. Listen, you guys keep your head on swivel for people, man. Sometimes people do some stupid stuff, man. And I've seen it all in law enforcement. So, golly, it's unfortunate you have to watch your back in the woods and then out in society, because there's a lot of people out there that are just dumb. But, I don't know. But I love this channel, man. I love doing this, and I love to have. I couldn't do these lives without Daniel on here as a co-host, and he makes this stuff fun. And so, if you guys are enjoying this, share this video, check out our channels. That's the heartbeat of these channels, is this community. And so, we do appreciate everybody that's on here. It's good to see you, Carl. Everybody in the chat that we've missed. Crystal's good to see you. Ron's also always good to see you. Wade Fisher, you guys are awesome. Frida, I think Frida's in here. My cousin's in here.
Mm-hmm.
Swamp Dog, Mr. Duffy.
TV.
Yep. Curtis. Of course, we mentioned Daryl, Ashes to Antics, all the guys who show up. And I know you guys take time out of your busy schedules. Larry, thank you, man, for just to listen to these stuff. And we love talking about these encounters. And I can tell you, we don't take this stuff lightly. So when you send us an encounter, it stays with me and Daniel. Promise, if you send something to us in confidence, it won't go any further. We're, as he likes to say, we're your gatekeepers. So Greg's, good to see you, buddy. But for you guys who are just popping on, man, we've been talking a lot of different Bigfoot Dogman encounters. We kind of got into our encounters a little bit. We had somebody ask us to share ours, so we talked about that. So Scott, thanks. I appreciate it.
And then I started getting weepy.
Well, listen, it's hard to talk about stuff and not get emotional, man. There's so many. That's the thing, is I think people forget, because we get so wrapped up into the stories and the creatures, we forget that there's real people on the other side of this that have heard these or had these encounters, and they don't know what to do with them. So if you guys have an encounter and you want to share it, or you just want to send it over and you don't want to come on either one of our shows, email me at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. And then you can email Daniel
at thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I got another story to get into, and I know that guys, we've this has been a good show. I've enjoyed that, but so this one, everybody knows the Falk monster, and I'll tell you a funny story about this before we read this. And Daniel always has the ability to remember way more than I do and way more details. He's kind of the fact checker. He's the researcher and does a great job with that. But when I was just a kid, speaking of family, my dad came to me and he's like, hey, we're going to go to your grandpa's house and watch a story about Bigfoot. Well, I instantly thought that he was referring to Bigfoot, the truck, because I was fascinated with monster trucks as a kid. So you can imagine my horror when we left my grandpa's house, and I was absolutely terrified by the movie. Was it the Legend of Boggy Creek?
Legend of Boggy Creek.
Yeah, that was my first introduction to this world and this stuff. But so the Falk monster attack. This is we did a show on this. It's been way back. So the Falk monster is known for a town located in a town called Falk, Arkansas. It has been terrorizing the swamps of the Boggy Creek for generations. But no encounter is as famous or as horrifying as what happened to the Ford family in the early 1970s. Bobby and Elizabeth Ford had just moved into their small rural home near Boggy Creek. Now, this is all swampland, guys. Like, it's really rural. There's not much out there. The first few nights were peaceful, but soon they began to notice strange things. Unexplained footprints, massive three-toed prints appeared around the house. Strange howls echoed through the trees at night. And then one evening, Elizabeth saw something in the woods. It was just behind the tree line watching. She couldn't make out the details, but the silhouette was unmistakable. Massive, standing at least 7 foot tall, and was breathing heavily. Panic set in. She locked the doors, grabbed her husband's shotgun, and waited. That night, the horror truly began. Bobby investigated strange noises outside, was suddenly attacked. The creature lunged at him, knocked him down with an immense force. His skin burned as he felt sharp claws scrape against his back. He scrambled to his feet, managed to break free, and sprint towards the house. He barely made it into the house before the monster began trying to tear the house apart. The creature banged against the walls with terrifying strength, shaking the entire structure. A massive hairy hand reached through an open window, claws scraping against the wooden frame. Elizabeth fired a shot, and for a moment the growls stopped. But then the real horror struck. The couple watched in terror as a massive shadowy form loomed at the front door. It was breathing, growling, and then suddenly the entire door frame shook. The monster was trying to get in. Desperate, Bobby fired his rifle through the door. A loud guttural roar echoed through the swamp, following the sound of casting trees as the beast retreated into the night. The next morning, authorities found claw marks covering the house, enormous footprints leading into the swamp. The Falk monster had vanished, but locals still whisper that it's watching, waiting for its next chance to strike. We still get reports of that creature from time to time. We've talked about them pretty recently. So, yeah, Bigfoot in your backyard, man. Pretty wild stuff. I know that
I do have Bigfoot in my backyard.
You do, don't you?
I do. I'm not lying. Like 100%. Like, not literally my backyard, but like 10 minutes from my house.
Yeah, I know. You tell me it's pretty wild stuff, man. It's pretty wild, man. You live in a really strange area. So, hey, yeah, Wade, thanks for the super chat, man. Appreciate that, buddy. Thank you very much, man. It means a lot.
Wade kissing that fish.
I love that picture, man. Hey, if you want to, Wade, drop your link in the channel. If you guys like fishing and outdoors, man, check him out. Let's see, Swamp Dog. Yeah, Bigfoot is everywhere. I really believe that. I think that people get this perception that it's only out west, Pacific Northwest area. But man, this thing is everywhere, man. It is absolutely everywhere.
Well, you just mentioned Pacific Northwest. Like, my sighting, legit, that was my backyard. Like,
yeah,
not figuratively, like legitimately, it was my backyard, my front yard, my side yard.
Hey, Frida wants you. She says you need curtains on that window. I tell him that all the time. I'm always looking over his shoulder. I'm waiting to see Bigfoot like peeking in the window like that. So,
well, if you can see my light in the background, And if you look right off to the left, you see like a little black thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that's a case for something. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, just that's all he needs. Just a case for it. That's all he needs.
Yeah.
That's hilarious, man. Well, you know, I think it's weird, and I don't know why. I would love to hear your thought, but why do you think Bigfoot always peeks in windows, especially children's windows? That's really creepy to me. And the guy, the last guest I had on, Daryl, he said the first Class A sighting he had of this creature that was peeking in the window, and you could actually see the snot rolling off this thing because it was so pressed into the thing. He said it actually has 5 fingers where it tried to rip off the screen door before it ran off. But man, why do you think they do that?
Because they're curious.
Yeah.
We're a curiosity to them, like we are.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure we are. To them, like we're these like hairless, upright creatures that walk around that, they probably don't know, but they like to watch TV.
Yeah. Like, no, what? Honestly, I would not put it past them.
Well, I tell you what, man, probably somebody asked earlier what the creepiest story that we've ever heard is, the scariest Bigfoot encounter. And this is not a Bigfoot encounter or Dogman. This is a Dogman encounter, and he's been on my show and on Daniel's show. But there's a guy in North Carolina. I think his name was Wade or Wes. I can't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong. From North Carolina.
He's on my show.
Yeah, I think he came on your show.
Oh yeah. Nope. Yep. Where he went? He was like this.
Yeah. So this guy, he was just a kid in this house, and he said he looked out, and there was something told him to look out the window, and there was this dog-looking creature, pretty good far ways away from his window, and there was a tree right next to his bedroom. And he said he would look again, and this thing was a little closer, and it looked like a dog standing up. And he said the next thing you know, he looked again, and this thing was up against his window, and it was doing this, and he could hear mind speak, this thing telling him to come here. And he said the weird thing about it is its eyes were like the Twilight Zone. It had these like whatever where it would twirl and stuff.
Eyes.
So it's stuff like that, man. It's like, I don't know what you do with that stuff. It's so weird to me, but it's pretty scary stuff, man. Well, so besides, go ahead. Yeah.
The one that sticks out to me a lot, and it's just because it's a Dogman encounter, that this Dogman was so matter of fact on the message that he told this person. As a kid, this guy was 12 years old. When he was 12 years old, he was out hunting, and he came across what he thought was a fox, and he raised his shotgun to shoot it. And as he raised it, he like in like seconds, he heard "don't," and then he shoots his shotgun, and then he hears immediately after, "shoot me." So don't shoot me. And this thing came out, and he's like, "Why did you do that?" And this guy was like, "Because you scared me." He goes, "Well, I'm just playing with you. I like to play jokes." And so this thing started following him literally throughout his life. And there's a one point in time where he saw this, and this thing communicated with him. And this Dogman said these exact words: "When I am allowed to, I'm going to kill you first." That is what this thing said to him. When I'm allowed to, I'm going to kill you first. Come on. That's you.
Yeah, you know what's crazy about that is he said it on the show. He said, "I tried alcohol, I tried drugs, I tried everything until I tried Jesus, and nothing helped but that."
Yep.
And so he's a very believable guy, man. And the weird part, guys, about that story is whenever I recorded that, there was a really weird sound in the background, and I couldn't get it to clean up. It only happened when I started to record the interview. We tried 3 times, I think, and it still was there. But yeah, they can't kill him. He knows his authority. That's true. That's true. Frida, you're right. Janet, you're right. That is absolutely true. Speaking of Dogman, Swamp Dog had a really man, really messed up encounter with a dogman creature. And then what's it been like 2 weeks, a week,
Yeah.
week and a half, 2 weeks? He had a second
Probably.
encounter with this thing. And that happens a lot, man. People see these things and then they just, I don't know, man. It's a strange world, but guys, one thing, man, I've said normally we go about 2 hours on the show, but tonight I have to cut a little bit short. For you guys who don't know, my wife she's been really sick lately. It's been battling some stuff for quite a while. So if you guys could remember her in your prayers, that would be really, it would mean a lot. And I know some of you guys are already doing that, but I appreciate it. And but this has been fun, man. Yeah. This has been fun. You got one more you want to read?
Yep, I got one more for you guys.
Okay.
You know what? I won't go from here. I'll go from memory. Okay.
Do it, man. I'm ready.
So when I was on the Untold Radio Network a couple weeks ago, we had a guest on by the name of Reed. Now, Reed lives close to me, like legit close to me. And he was working up in the Iron Range, like up in Ely area here in Minnesota. And the job that he had done was done for the year. So he came back down towards the Twin Cities area where I live near. I live north of the Twin Cities. And he said, I'm just going to go for a bike ride. Now, he went for a bike ride in the middle of the night. Okay. So he had his little flashlight, and he was riding his bike, and he went to this area that is across the road from a movie theater that I've frequented many, many times. And and I know this lake that he went to. So the side that he's on, the lake is between Centerville Road and 35E, Interstate 35E. And he's on the eastern side of this lake. Now, what happens is there's a little part of this lake that has like a little peninsula that goes up north, faces north, and there's another one that branches off that kind of faces south, and it creates a little lagoon. Well, so he was, for whatever reasons, hey, be quiet. And so he goes to and he's, I don't know why he was checking out, but the moon was out. The moon was out. It was a super bright moon. And he rests his bike against a tree. And so he goes and starts looking, and he starts hearing this noise. And he's not sure what this noise is, but it's definitely not a regular animal per se. So as he's looking around, he sees this gigantic stone. Like, the way he described it, I envisioned like a tabletop, but a thick slab of stone. And it just came sailing through the air, and it landed in like near this lagoon, like in this lagoon where he was, so close to him that it splashed him. And now he's hearing something else come over the other side. So he's like, well, what's going on? So he's trying to see what's going on. So he starts slowly backing out. He gets to where his bike is. His bike's not there. So now he's looking around again and looking. And just by chance, one of the reflectors or part of the spoke or whatever on his bike kind of caught the moonlight, and it glinted. It gave him like a little glint. And that's where he found it. But now it was like 60 to 70 feet away from where he had put his bike. Something had physically picked his bike up and placed it over there, knowing that he would have to go in there to get it. So he kind of took his time, looked around, slowly went and got his bike, brought his bike back up, and hauled butt out of there.
Smart decision.
Bro, I know where this is. I know the name of the lake. I've driven by this lake on both, on the west side and on the east side of this lake. I know exactly where this lake is. This lake is about 3 miles from where Doug Highcheck saw his Bigfoot encounter. Also about 3 miles from another guest that was on that show named Joe that had a daytime sighting as it walked diagonally across the street off the side of the road and then disappeared in some trees.
It's a wild world, man. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens up your way, man. It's weird now you have these pockets of places, you know, that like Skinwalker Ranch and just all these different places that have these things tied to them, like Owl Moon Labs and, you know, like my area, like there's a lot of weird stuff that happened, you know, and then where you're at. So I don't know. It's crazy. But strange world, man. Greasebag, 4 a.m. Dude, that is early, brother. I'm glad you're still with us, but man, I hope you get some rest because that's gonna make for a long day. But guys, you guys are all awesome, and we appreciate the support. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight in this live. I hope you've enjoyed that. You know, we love doing this. I'm just very honored to sit in this chair and to be able to talk about, you know, these creatures and just hanging out with everybody and all the support. Thanks for the prayers for my wife. It means a whole lot. But man, and if you don't, you know, if you'd love to send me an encounter, send it to me at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. Even if you don't want to come on the show, if you got evidence you want us to talk about on the show, you know, make sure to send it to us. What's wrong with you, man?
All of our people are just now popping on.
Yeah, I know.
Y'all missed it.
Y'all missed it, but you can go back and rewatch it. That's the cool thing about YouTube. But
I know
it's always fun.
And if you guys want to shoot me a message or shoot me an email, thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com, thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. If you're new to the channel or new into the chat and you haven't gone over and checked out my channel, it's the Cryptid Podcast on YouTube. Shoot me a like, a subscribe, a comment, whatever. I'm almost at 2,000, you guys. I am
pushing over the edge, guys.
Yeah, I am at 1,963.
That's awesome.
Thanks for all of your guys' support. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. We really appreciate the support, and we couldn't do this without you guys. We're building a really cool community, and you know, me and Daniel are going to grow these things together, and we're excited for what's coming in the future. We got some cool stuff we've been talking about, so you guys will have to stay tuned for that. But appreciate everybody out there. You know, make sure to tune in Monday. Every Monday, I drop an episode on my show, 11:30 Central. We do these lives on Thursdays at 8:30 Central. But guys, the most important thing you can do, and first of all, if we missed you in the chat tonight, we're sorry, but thanks for being here and commenting. But you know what I'm going to say? I'm not ever going to get off here without saying it. Guys, stay prayed up. It's the most important thing you can do. We'll see you in the next episode.